So what's good, TMG fam? It's your boy Ellen. I'm back with another reaction. How y'all feel? Welcome back to the channel. Salute. Let me make sure I got everything set and correct. Oh yeah, I'm straight. So listen, the next video we're gonna get into, man, it's 4 creepy unsolved mysteries that belong in the X-Files. Now, some of y'all may be too young to remember the X-Files, but bro, one of the creepiest intros, that sound, it'll haunt you, to live with you, it'll be in your dreams. You hear that intro song or that intro music, bro. It always messed me up. Man. X-Files was something crazy. What was the name? Mulder? Something like that? Mulder? I think it was. But yeah, we're gonna check out this crazy video. So if you are new to the channel, please hit the subscribe button, man. I thank you and join the fam. All right? And moment of silence for the haters. That's enough. Now run the likes up. Make sure y'all hit that like button. Let's get to the video.
Today's video is sponsored by Shudder. Shudder is the world's premier streaming service for horror, thriller, and supernatural movies and...
Hold on, y'all. Oh yeah, there we go. Boom.
For anybody interested in horror movies or movie making. Fans of other classic and modern favorites won't be disappointed either. Just recently I got excited when I saw that Shudder had Audition, a must-see for fans of J-horror, which I've been looking for on other services everywhere. With a low subscription price of just $5.
Hold on, my bad. Thought I had it. There we go.
So I've only selected ones that have multiple witnesses, and that have been thoroughly scientifically analyzed. Even so, they still remain unanswered. But that's not to say the truth isn't out there somewhere. With all that said, let's get into the first one. Let's take a trip in both geography and time, and examine a truly bizarre incident. Evora, Portugal, 2nd of November, 1959. From his headmaster's office at a local college, Dr. Guides do Amaral noticed something strange just floating far off in the sky outside his window. It was a bright blue, cloudless day, and this seemingly metallic sphere that was just hovering in the sky was completely out of place. And then again, his old eyes weren't as sharp as they once were, so, along with some other teachers, he set up a telescope in the courtyard and took a more magnified look at the thing. As he examined it, he could hardly believe what he was seeing. There, in the sky, was a whitish blue, shimmering object, moving in a completely unnatural way. It would hover in place for long periods, and then zip in a random direction at what Dr. Amaral described as a speed that defied the laws of physics. He knew this definitely wasn't a bird or a plane. It had no wings or propellers to speak of.
But then when you see something like that and you know in your mind, it's like, that gotta be something unidentified. But then you immediately think in your mind like, who's gonna believe me? They're gonna call me crazy. They're gonna try to put me in a crazy house. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's immediately the thought process I would start going through.
Just a metallic orb suspended in space. As they were observing it, it vanished into thin air. Then, without warning, and seemingly out of nowhere, another, much larger flying object appeared above them. It was physically similar to the first, apart from the fact that it was several times bigger and comprised of 2 spheres instead of 1. The top sphere was solid, but the one beneath it moved in a wavy, jellyfish-like motion. This one too would just hover in place before moving at a ridiculously quick pace somewhere else. Occasionally it dropped altitude, only to shoot back up into the sky at record-breaking speed, going so high as to almost disappear from their view. Dr. Amaral asked his nearby co-workers and students to look through his telescope and confirm that he wasn't going senile. Much like him, they too couldn't believe their eyes. Nor could the hundreds of other witnesses across town, who also saw the oscillating object above them. After approximately 30 minutes of loitering, the unidentified flying object silently sped off and disappeared. The astonishment of the town's residents soon turned to unease, when a strange, cobweb-like substance started falling from the sky down upon them. Long strands of this white, stringy material rained down and formed in large clumps on the ground and rooftops.
And they just standing out there trying to grab it like it's money. Nah, I don't want none of that stuff to touch me. You don't know what's on it, how it could affect your skin. Y'all just out there trying to catch it like it's money. Like, people, like, I don't know, maybe I'm different.
This still unidentified substance would later become known as angel hair rain.
Angel hair.
Dr. Amaral and his students examined the falling angel hair. At first, they theorized that it must be the work of some breed of flying spider dropping silky webs from above.
Angel hair rain. They had to make that up. Come on now. Y'all are, like, at some point, are y'all making this stuff up? Only angel hair I know of is pasta. Angel hair rain? Or a spider dropping spider web? Like, what we got? This Spider-Man or something?
Theorized that it must be the work of some breed of flying spider dropping silky webs from above. Such things are exceptionally common in Australia and New Zealand, though admittedly very rare in Europe. Still,
Wow.
that didn't seem to make much sense.
Wow. Now that I see that, I do remember a video showing something like this. Wow. My bad. I forgot about that. But I still don't know about the angel hair rain, though.
There's no way a whole army of spiders could have produced this much webbing, and there weren't any pesky arachnids visible anywhere. Dr. Amaral and his students tried to pick up some of the strange substance, only to realize that the hairs melted in their warm hands. During the 4 hours that it fell over the small provincial town, Dr. Amaral was able to scoop up a small clump of the white filaments into a petri dish. 62 miles away, a team of fighter pilots were preparing for takeoff at Portugal's Sintra airbase. Several of the pilots, including Captain Tomas Silva, noticed a strange, slimy substance forming on their canopies. It was the same white filaments that were falling over Evora, collecting on their jets like snow in winter. After washing off the substance and finishing their mission, Captain Tomas Silva called his father, Admiral Conceição Silva, an enthusiastic amateur physicist and astronomer, and asked him for his opinion on what the substance could be. Stumped, Admiral Silva himself called up his friend in Evora. That friend just so happened to be Dr. Amaral. Amaral said that the same substance had just fallen over his town too. They realized this must be a nationwide incident, and when Amaral said that he had successfully collected a sample, the two scientists quickly agreed to meet and examine it together.
See, stuff like that happening freaks me out, man. That's like the birds falling out the sky in the other video. You know what I mean? Or all those spider webs in that one location like that. And you know it ain't no huge 10-foot spider walking around. But you see all of this whole acreage of land is covered in spider webs like that. Like, that type of stuff, it always gives me, like, I don't know why my mind thinks like, but it give me like end of the world vibes. Anybody else? Or is it just me?
After magnifying the angel hair 120 times, both Amaral and Silva noticed something bizarre. There was a living organism under their microscope. On the hair was a 1 millimeter wide, yellow, unicellular creature with 10 slime-covered tentacles that expanded and moved. The thing's legs were so strong that they could actually lift up the slides that the creature was framed between slightly.
See? And look at all the people that it could have went on, got in their body on it. See? That's why I'd have went right in the house and tried to figure out how to get up out of here.
It demonstrated defensive mechanisms like that of an animal. Neither of them had ever seen anything like this before in their professional careers. The only known animals to have a similar structure to the microscopic creature were certain types of jellyfish. Okay, so maybe this was some type of rare jellyfish from the deep ocean, but that doesn't explain how so many of them started falling from the sky on stringy cobwebs.
Right.
Some scientists warily started speculating that the creatures could have come from a neighboring planet or from Earth's extra-atmospheric space. Others believed that the hair-like strands were vaporized meteor fragments. Given the time period, some speculated that this had something to do with a Cold War gas test. Again, given the time period, the Portuguese government was extremely authoritarian and nationalistic. The doctor's research was deemed to be against God, and any effort to publish his findings were thwarted. Dr. Amaral tried to translate his research and publish it internationally, but when he tried to do so, he was threatened with suspension. Both he and Admiral Silver were publicly shamed to the point where they both gave up trying to get others on board with their discovery. Unable to proceed with his research and feeling out of his depth, Dr. Amaral handed over the preserved specimens to the University of Lisbon, where they were further analyzed. Still, Amaral himself never gave up looking into the angel hair and organism, and when he passed away in the 1990s, he left behind his large amount of research. He collected hundreds of testimonials from other people who had seen the flying objects that morning in November, and in each case, the witnesses said that their sightings were followed by angel hair falling from the sky. He'd also learned that this so-called angel hair rain had been observed at several other points in history. 1561 in Germany, 1917 again in Portugal, 1898 in Montgomery, USA, 1952 in France, and 1954 in Italy. Still, it's unclear whether those incidents were the exact same as this. In 2008, an expert cell biologist was contacted to examine Dr. Amaral's photos of the unknown creature found on the webs. The expert wrote, "This structure, or microorganism as some have called it, is still unknown to contemporary science. I was unable to identify a single structure akin to an earthly single-cell organism." So, there we have it. Surely the fact that the angel hair coincided with the appearance of the flying objects couldn't have been a coincidence. Then again, could there be a far more rational explanation for this mystery than just aliens? Of course. Like many scientists have noted, the structure of the creatures on the hair is extremely similar to young, microscopic jellyfish. How they came to fall from the sky is anyone's guess though. Perhaps they were scooped up in a whirlwind. Still, that doesn't account for the flying objects themselves, which were seen by hundreds of people just before the hair fell. Were they?
See, this is the type of stuff that we need. Like, keep following me down this journey, man. I'm gonna have your third eye open. I promise you, bro. You're gonna start thinking about things. You're gonna start researching things and finding a lot of things that was out there. They ain't gonna just put it in front of your face. You gotta go look for it. You know what I mean? They try to keep it hidden, but they can only do so much. You do a little bit of digging, you'll find stuff out like this. And this is crazy.
Military in origin? Civilian? Or something more otherworldly? Sadly, we may never hear more from this case, due to the sad fact that the labs at the University of Lisbon burned down in the late 1970s, taking the original samples Dr. Amaral had collected with them.
It burned down. Like, get out of here, man. It burned down. You think it really burned down? Come on, man. That ain't no convenient. Come on, man. It really burned down. No, they was on to something. They was on to something or someone.
The only other sample that may exist was taken by a group of independent researchers and has since mysteriously vanished. A huge shout out to Reddit user LucyCat Writes for their amazing overview of this case on the Unresolved Mysteries subreddit. Link to that write-up in the bio. Now, on to number 2.
Wow.
So that first case was weird, sure, but this is where things get dark. Now I'm sure most of you are familiar with the Dyatlov Pass incident, a favorite of horror fans on YouTube. What you may not have heard though, is the equally disturbing and still unexplained Hamar Daban Pass incident, sometimes called the Buryatia Dyatlov Pass. On August 5th, 1993, a team of mountaineers were trekking through the Hamar Daban mountain range in Siberia. The expedition was made up of 7 people and was headed by Ludmila Korovina, a seasoned hiker with tons of experience. Joining her were 24-year-old Tatiana Filipenko, Denis Vachin, Vika Zalasova, Timur Babanov, Valia Utachenko, and 23-year-old Sasha Krisin.
All of them extremely young, man. The oldest person is 24 years old. And they always get me by saying, oh, man, this person was a very, very talented, what did they call her? Hold on, I'll go back. I got to get it right. Hold on. Where are they? I'm talking about. Here you go.
Seasoned hiker with
Seasoned hiker. There you go. That's what I was looking for. Couldn't get it out. She's a seasoned hiker, but you're going against elements. How seasoned can you be? And then you're young. You're a seasoned hiker, man, going against elements like that. I always think that's a recipe for disaster. And that has nothing to do with the story, but that just gets me every time that they say somebody's a seasoned this or seasoned that, especially when going up against elements.
Lea Utachenko and 23-year-old Sasha Krisin, who Ludmila had effectively raised and thought of as her own son. The young group set off on the morning of the 2nd, as did several other hiking groups in the area. Unfortunately, although good weather was predicted, the team were blasted with freezing cold rain and snow. This didn't dissuade them from continuing, however. Like I said, the group was young and eager to prove themselves to Ludmila, whom they all looked up to. Ludmila didn't go easy on them either, and along the way made some questionable decisions. On the night of the 4th, for instance, she had the group set up their camp on a slope about 4 kilometers away from the nearest forest. There was a thunderstorm raging that night, and this area was completely unprotected from the elements. Given her mountains of experience in, well, mountaineering, you'd have thought she would have chosen to camp elsewhere. The next morning, it happened. As the group packed up their things and descended down the mountain, Sasha suddenly began bleeding heavily from his nose, ears, and mouth. He fell to the ground and was dead within moments.
What the f?
This happened so suddenly that everyone else was left dumbfounded. Sasha was strong, healthy, and hadn't complained of any pain up until that moment. What had just happened? Most distraught was Ludmila herself. Like I said, Sasha was like a son to her. She ordered everyone else down the mountain while she stayed with the body. They followed her instruction and started walking.
What the f?
No more than a minute later, however, they heard Ludmila shouting to them for help, saying that she couldn't move. They rushed back to see what was wrong with her, only to find their leader sprawled out on the ground beside Sasha, blood gushing out of her face. The rest of the group were horrified.
They get bit by something up there in the middle of the night? Why are they just suddenly, all of a sudden it happens, blood, then you collapse dead? What? Something they done, something bit them, something got into them or something.
Two of their team, who were apparently healthy that morning, had just perished in front of them in the blink of an eye. They started to panic, terrified that the same thing was about to happen to them. Well, it did. Valia Utachenko, the group's only survivor, explained what happened next.
Oh.
Moments after discovering Ludmila's body, Timur and Vika began tearing at their clothes, fell to the ground, and started twitching and foaming from the mouth. In Valia's words,
Why?
Dennis began to hide behind the rocks and run away. Tatiana was banging her head against the stones. Vika and Timur probably went mad. Valia tried to help Vika, the youngest female in the group, but when she did, the girl bit her. Dennis and Valia were the only 2 group members still unaffected by whatever was happening. They both began to run at full speed down the mountain. Dennis told Valia to take out the essential items from her bag, abandon the rest, and run as fast as she could. She started rifling through her belongings, but by the time she looked back up at Dennis, he was lying on the ground, bleeding from every orifice.
What?
Alone and terrified, she sprinted off. Now, without any provisions and still far from civilization, she was forced to sleep alone in the forest at the bottom of the mountain, all through the freezing night.
How could you even sleep? I'd be so afraid that at any moment, like, what happened to them? Why is it not happening to me? What got into them?
The next morning, Valia made her way back up the slope to look for survivors, and came upon a scene of pure carnage. All of her young co-hikers were dead. For 3 days, the 17-year-old wandered through the mountain pass alone in hopes of being rescued. She tried following electric cables, but they only led her to an abandoned village. Her mind had been shattered by what she had witnessed. Eventually, she made it back to civilization, but at first was too traumatized to tell anyone what had happened. Still, when she came back alone, a search and rescue operation was immediately launched for the other group members. Their bodies wouldn't be found for another month, by which point animals had already started devouring them. What the rescuers could tell was that the figures in the snow were contorted and their faces were twisted in pain.
Wow.
It was a scary picture, said one of the rescue team. The hikers were lying on a small ledge, some huddled together, some a little distance away. They had no eyes. In the empty sockets and parted mouths, worms were crawling. We packed the bodies in plastic bags. When they flew to Ulan-Ude, the smell in the helicopter was impossible. Some of the men were sick. To this day, we still don't know what strange phenomenon claimed the lives of 6 of those 7 hikers. Autopsies confirmed that they were all otherwise healthy, though there was bruising in all of their lungs. Could this have all been the result of some strange sickness? Some sort of poisoning? Hypothermia, perhaps? Or did they stumble into a secret test site for nerve agents?
Yeah, all of those things, except maybe the hypothermia, because I feel like you would know you're going into hypothermia, you know what I mean? But the other things, some type of nerve agent or something, like I said, possibly getting bit by something and it all setting in, where they were, what they breathed in, all of that type, something had to make them all die the same way. And then why did I'm still looking at her kind of suspicious too, because how did you survive? Y'all were all together. She had all y'all sleep at that same area.
What's strange is that there were numerous other hiking groups in the same area, yet none of them were affected by whatever killed Valia's group. There's a lot of debate online about this, but as of right now, no definitive conclusion. The disappearance of Fred Valentich is a case that has long been shrouded in mystery. Fred was a 20-year-old Australian pilot who went missing back in 1978 during a training flight to King Island over Bass Strait. At 7:06 p.m. on October 21st, he radioed air traffic control, telling them that another unidentified aircraft was flying about 300 meters above his, and that it appeared to be following him. Strange, they replied. There wasn't supposed to be any traffic at that altitude. Fred told them that he thought this other pilot was toying with him, racing off and approaching at high speed, and then, quote-unquote, orbiting above him. He also said that he was starting to have engine problems. One thing Fred could make out was that this other aircraft was very large, had a metallic surface, and was illuminated by 4 bright green lights on its underside. Air traffic control then asked him to identify what type of aircraft it was. Fred paused before replying, "It's not an aircraft." Immediately after that, his transmission was interrupted by a strange metallic noise, and then cut out completely.
Got him. They got him.
Despite an extensive search and rescue effort, neither Fred nor his Cessna 182L light aircraft were ever seen again.
What is big enough to take not only him, but his plane too? And nobody ever catches that on radar or nothing? Like, come on.
Needless to say, there are a number of theories about what happened to Fred during that fateful night. Of course, I'll start by stating the obvious. Some people are convinced that he encountered a UFO, which either took down his plane or abducted it.
Me too. I'm thinking that too. He told y'all, large aircraft, metallic surface with, 4 bright lights on it? And it just hovers over him? And then pretty much does what? Probably just suck his plane in? Sound like a UFO to me.
They cite the strangeness of Fred's radio messages, the fact that this other aircraft apparently had green lights, that Fred and his aircraft were never found, and that other UFO sightings were reported in Melbourne that very night he vanished. That being said, more skeptical minds have proposed a few other theories. Some believe that Fred, having gained a reputation as a bit of a careless pilot, was the maker of his own undoing.
See, now, they don't need to start doing that now. Don't start saying, oh, he was this type of person, and you start spreading lies that equal up to the narrative that you're trying to push. Don't do that about somebody, man. Figure out what happened to this dude. Worry about his past later. You know what I mean? I can't stand when they do that to people. They start saying, oh, well, he had a gambling problem, so he was up there gambling in the air, probably. Like, what? Are you serious? No, it was several UFO sightings that night, and also what he radioed in. How about try to figure that out? I hate when they try to just discredit people like that and try to push a narrative.
Past, he'd received a warning for straying into a controlled zone in Sydney, and had twice got in trouble for intentionally flying into clouds. As such, they say that Fred must have accidentally been flying upside down without realizing it, something that's far more common than you'd imagine. The aircraft and lights he was seeing could have easily been his own, reflecting off the water's surface below him. After a while, they say that he simply collided with the ocean and met with a watery end. As compelling as that theory sounds, others have countered by pointing out that his model of plane had a gravity-fed engine, and flying upside down would have resulted in immediate engine failure. He wouldn't have been able to contact air traffic control at all. Others think that Fred had planned his whole disappearance from the start, and that he's still alive and well somewhere. The guy was a known UFO enthusiast, and, according to his own father, the young pilot constantly worried that aliens were going to attack the Earth. Certainly sounds like the type of guy who'd get a kick out of setting up an elaborate hoax. Backing up that theory is the fact that a light aircraft mysteriously landed not far from Cape Otway, just around the same time that Fred went missing. Could the young pilot have staged the whole incident? Finally, pilot James McGaha and author Joe Nickell have suggested that Fred was the victim of his own inexperience, and that he sent himself into a so-called graveyard spiral after misreading the horizon. Since humans,
like, they really pushing this narrative about him, man. And it could all be true, but it just don't feel right to me. You know what I'm saying? That just don't feel right. All of a sudden, he's this type of person, that type of person. You know what I mean? Obviously, he was good enough for y'all to give him his pilot's license or whatever it takes to fly that. You know what I mean? Like, think about that too. Don't just automatically accept this narrative that they try to push about somebody.
when sensors are adapted for land, it's extremely risky to fly an aircraft without computer-navigated systems. Our brains create a lot of misleading sensory illusions due to being unable to accurately interpret and reflect the movement of the plane. Simply put, they say his senses lied to him and convinced him to fly in a downward spiral. Ultimately, we just don't know what happened to Fred and his airplane back in 1978.
Right.
Was it aliens? Well, that's the most fun answer of the bunch, sure. Though, as you just heard, there are several far more grounded explanations. Though, since neither Frederick nor his plane's wreckage have ever been recovered, his case is likely to remain one that's cited by other UFO enthusiasts for the foreseeable future. Whatever did happen to him, I'm sure that's what he would have wanted. Just a quick little one to end things. I'm not sure how many of you are familiar with it, but it fits nicely into this video. The WOW signal is the name given to the most convincing piece of evidence we have for intelligent alien life. On August 15th, 1977, at 10:16 p.m., Ohio State University's Big Ear radio telescope picked up a narrowband radio signal. What made this signal so strange and unexpected was that it came from the direction of the Sagittarius star constellation and had all the characteristics of being extraterrestrial in origin. The signal got its name after Jerry Emmon, the scientist who discovered the radio anomaly, circled his finding on the computer printout and wrote WOW next to it. Since the WOW event occurred, multiple leading scientists have tried to come up with explanations for the signal's existence. The thing is, none of them have been widely accepted in the scientific community. Jerry Emmon himself said that it may have been made after a signal from Earth bounced off a piece of floating space debris and was reflected back towards Big Ear. That was later concluded to be very unlikely. All other attempts to refute the evidence that the signal came from somewhere else other than Earth have fallen flat. Needless to say, there have been many attempts by other astrological institutions with more advanced radio telescopes to find and identify the signal, but the WOW signal has never been observed since, nor have any other signals like it. Since then, the WOW signal has been referenced in numerous songs, commercials, games and TV shows, including, as the title of this video suggests, The X-Files. Its origin remains a complete mystery, and, given how much research has gone into it over the years, it's easily the strongest candidate for an alien radio transmission that's ever been detected. maybe we're not alone after all.
I think that's it. Let me check.
Hey guys, Lazy here, and thank you very
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, man. Sometimes I don't know. Maybe it's just me. I be feeling like they be so quick to discredit or so quick to just downplay. You know what I mean? Something that people are saying or doing or whatever, man. And I'm just the type of person that I hear that, and when somebody is so quick to discredit it, I look at it kind of sideways. Like, why are you so quick to discredit this? Why not at least investigate it for some time before you just quickly discredit something? You know what I mean? That always make my antennas go up. Maybe it's just how I'm wired, though. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying that I'm right or I'm wrong. I'm just saying that just makes me a little bit leery of certain things. You know what I mean? But I don't know. Interested to see what y'all thought of this video, which was super, super crazy from start to finish, man. You know what I mean? Even the crew on the mountain, fam, that was so sad and so crazy, and still leaves a ton of questions unanswered. Ton of questions unanswered, man. So y'all make sure y'all be safe out here in anything you be doing. And think, like I told you in the beginning, man, you see something, you start thinking, okay, are they gonna discredit me, put me in a crazy house or something like that for thinking what I'm thinking? So you gotta be a little bit smarter and a little bit cautious on just running out and saying you saw something like that. It's now. But they say the men in black are coming. You get it? You know what I'm saying? But y'all get at me in the comment section. Let me know what you think and stick around and stay tuned. Until the next one, I'm gone. Peace.